Today we are beginning our unit on decimals. Please copy the standard benchmark indicator down on a clean page in your math notebook. The student will read, write, and identify the place values of decimals through the thousands. Decimal notation. You can use what you know about place value to help you understand decimals. There are many ways to represent numbers. One way is to use a grid. A second way is to use numbers, and a third way is to use words. A place value chart like the one at the right can help you understand decimals. And if you look over at the place value at the chart, you can see the 1 is under the ones place, then there's the decimal, the 2 is in the tenth, and the 9 is in the hundredths. In grid form, this looks like one complete grid filled in because there's 100 squares there, so it equals 1. And then there are 29 squares shaded in the second grid. So we have 1 and 29 hundredths. In number form, this looks like a 1, a decimal point, followed by a 2, 9. In word form, it's written as 1 and 29 hundredths. The and represents the decimal point. Example 1. Write the decimal number represented by the grid. The grid is divided into 10 sections, so each section represents tenths. 5 sections are sheeted, so the grid represents 5 tenths, written as 0, decimal point, and a 5. For the try it, write the decimal number represented by the grid. For A, we have one whole grid shaded in, so we know we're going to have one whole, and then we have 25 hundredths shaded in the next grid. So our decimal is going to be 1 and 25 hundredths. This is shown as a 1, a decimal point, and then the 25 hundredths. For B, if we look at it, our grids are divided into tenths, and we have 2 full grids shaded in. So we know we're going to have a whole of 2, followed by a decimal point, and the last grid has 3 of the 10 sections shaded in. So we have 2 and 3 tenths. Example 2. For example 2, write 4 and 311 thousandths as a decimal. You know that the decimal point is read as and, so the decimal is a 4, followed by the decimal point, 311. And the number ends in the thousands place, so we know it's 311 thousandths. For the try it, we're going to write each number as a decimal. For C, we have 12 hundredths. Because we don't have an and, we know the number is less than 1. So our decimal is going to be written as a 0, a decimal point, and then the 1 and the 2 to represent the 12 hundredths. For D, it's the same thing. We have 8 tenths. We don't have an and, so we know it's less than 1. So we know it's going to be a 0, a decimal point, and then an 8 in the tenths position. For E, we have 3 and 497 thousandths. So we know the 3 is our whole number. We know the and represents a decimal point. And then we have 497 after the decimal point to represent thousands. For F, we have 5 and 26 hundredths. So our 5 is our whole number, the and represents the decimal point, and then we're going to have a 26 after it to represent the hundredths. For G, we have 6 and 43 hundredths. So again, we have the 6 as the whole number, the and represents the decimal point, followed by a 43. Finally, for H, we have 2 and 874 thousandths. So there 2 is our whole number, our and represents our decimal, and then we have 874 thousandths. Finally, the last thing I want to go over with you, which is not actually on your sheets, you will need to copy this down in your paper, is how to write decimals in expanded form because just like whole numbers, we can do this with decimals. So we're going to take the last number we had there, which was 2 and 874 thousandths, and we're going to write it down below. So for expanded form, we're going to separate each of the pieces out. So the first piece is the whole number. So we're going to write 2 plus. Then we're going to split the decimal into its 3 sections. So first we're going to add 8/10. Then we're going to add the 7/100. So now we're going to need a placeholding 0 after the decimal to make sure the 7 ends up in the hundredth spot. Finally, we're going to add the 4 thousandths. So we're going to have a 0, decimal point, 2 placeholding zeros, and then the 4 in the thousandths position. And that's how you write a decimal in expanded form. It's just like a whole number, except in this case, you've got the little decimal pieces broken up into all their individual sections. So make sure you copy that down and then glue the paper in your math notebook.